I'm getting jitters just from thinking about this, man. Just because if this is true, if what I will be explaining actually is true, then we are in for such an exciting time, mate. You won't believe it. No more fear of looming Dutch anthems every Sunday. No more taping over the top spot of the leaderboard to remain naive of Verstappen's imminent win. No more taking a piss out of Paris for finishing out of the points while literally sitting in the fastest moving thing this world has ever seen. Okay, I'm actually going to miss that one.
Hey Checo, I feel for you. It's obviously been a really difficult day. Just have you had a chance to chat to the team? Any real understanding why it couldn't be fixed between sessions?
We have feel a bit of an understanding, and we are confident that together as a team we will be able to sort it out. But nothing I can do now. I gotta look forward. This morning I was just going all around. I was driving more on the grass than on track, but yeah, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough.
But let's just get to the subject at hand. If I'm not wrong, then we have entered and are moving through one of the most exciting times in Formula 1. You see, every F1 period has its own eras. If you look at the timeline of the sport as a whole, you will notice that there's a strong tendency for sheer dominance from one of the teams. Because under the current regulations and standards of the sport, the team performing well is remunerated heavily and all of a sudden gets a whole bag of support and resources it can use to further develop its car and produce even better results. Which usually takes a fairly good performing team, if you compare it to the rest of the grid, and transforms it into an almost unstoppable force, which can usually only be broken up by either a regulation change implemented by the FIA or the big daddies of the sport, who are usually coerced into doing so by fans so fucking fed up with wearing orange and eating stroopwafel that they are ready to take arms if necessary. Or it can also happen if the leading team just fumbles somehow. Quite often it's like an implosion that happens when a team gets too bored of winning and are no longer improving as much as their adversaries are. Adversaries, that's a fucking fancy word. Or the principal gets too fucking cocky and becomes an annoying tyrant which pushes away all the smart people who are making the team great. Oh God fucking bless you, you beautiful tyrant, you.
Listen, shut the up. How many times do we have to sit and watch this shit?
Oh, shut up. Fucking idiot. The guy has no fucking idea.
And so what I believe we're currently witnessing is yet another one of those eras. The Verstappen era, of course. Not the Red Bull one. Because clearly one of the Bulls is pulling the whole carriage, while the other one is not just slow or not putting in the effort. He's so stupid, he's pulling the whole carriage the entirely wrong fucking way. It's beautiful. And the amazing part about this time is that it never fails to produce some good fucking racing, mate. Just remember 2021. It was perfect. And so the only question now is who is Red Bull handing over the reins to? Because it is actually not as clear cut as you might think. And Ferrari have sure as hell not made it easy for themselves, have they? It's fucking hilarious, to be honest. Watching a really bad reality TV series where the main protagonist has got all of what it takes to chat up that one girl, but when he really gets down to it, all he's able to mutter is, Daniel Ricciardo will be promoted to Red Bull. He's just spewing pure nonsense, you know? So let's start from the top, shall we? As I said, the F1 timeline can be quite easily divided into these eras, as I call them. So each one signifies a period where a specific team is dominating the whole sport with, of course, some races lost here and there. But every other team is just essentially playing catch-up. There was McLaren in the 80s, a bit of Williams in the early 90s, then a stint from Benetton, we all know why that happened. Then the next big one was, of course, Ferrari, with Michael just spearheading the sport for years. That was a bloody boring one at that. Then, after a brief stint for Nando with Renault, it was up and down for a while. Lovely time, that. Then Red Bull came along and just absolutely fucked everyone on the grid, with Sebastian pulling 4 out of the bag straight away. That was annoying, don't get me wrong, and boring, but he was such a child at the time. At least for a while it seemed like he was having too much fun for me to be annoyed in any way. Then I don't even want to speak of this one. Talk about a horrific time for the sport. Then 21 came along. Ugh. I still sometimes dream of that Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And now we've hit the dark ages. So today, the Verstappen era. So as you can see, there have been lots of these periods, and each one was more boring than the next. But just like with anything in life, the world needs all the horrible shit that goes on in our lives, all the routine, mundane, and boring things. Like, life in itself is just a whole pile of garbage, and you've been dumpster diving your whole fucking life. But sometimes, you find that one envelope or a worn out wallet that some poor bloke had thrown out without thoroughly checking it through, and you realise it's fucking £5 in there. And the sheer joy you experience from taking that hard-earned fiver and getting yourself a nice fresh pint at the pub. And it tastes so fucking good. Better than mother's milk. And the same thing with F1, you know. Okay, let me maybe be a bit more blunt. You've got to be fisted for 3 years straight to really appreciate some racing. How about that? Clear enough for you? And so we've established that indeed there are these stints of dominance from teams and drivers that make the racing quite boring, if I'm honest. Some are better than others, but some still make you f***ing squeal when you see a silver painted Merc in front of you at the stoplight. I swear it takes all the strength in my body not to walk up and punch the dude straight in the mouth. Lewis f***ing damaged me, mate. But now, as we're at this point clearly seeing, an era is coming to an end. And while I'll not really go into the details as to why the Verstappen joyride is finally ending, there certainly hasn't been any major regulation changes, and it's pretty clear the car is f***ed. In fact, it became f***ed as soon as Newey left. What a f***ing surprise. Apparently the whole f***ing team was basing their success off of one single old man. Bang up job, Horner. Bang up job. But at least now we can enjoy the fruits of our suffering for the past few years and watch some great f***ing racing. But to be honest, this is a bit different than 21. Because all of a sudden, there's not just one horse in the race, is there? There's multiple horses. Horses? I don't know how to fucking speak, apparently. Horses? Whores? You've probably noticed Max is still very much in it, from the sheer dominance that we had in the first few races. Then Lando, of course, the clear other favourite right now. But then there's also Charlie, just hanging on to the top. He's been barely hanging on for the past 3 years, I think. Not results-wise, more just in general barely hanging on. And Oscar is fucking hot on their heels, mate. Crazy. The new lad has not wasted a minute introducing himself to the sport. And apparently he's not going to let some British boy outdo him like that, so... them are fucking fierce there. And then the remaining, Carlos... Oh, what? Who texted me? I'm in the middle of a fucking recording! Have to redo that all now again. And then the remaining Carlos and Lewis both are really fucking up there as well. This is probably the most close championship in a fucking while, mate. Which is precisely why it's such an exciting time right now. Now, without a doubt in my mind, it's pretty clear who's the big dog now. If you forget about the Drivers' Championship for a second and focus on the Constructors. Because it's all fun and games who gets to wear a plastic crown for when they get to Abu Dhabi. But the real question is, who gets the multi-million-dollar prize out of these esteemed gentlemen here? While the drivers are playing their little wrestling match, a war is going on between some very serious blokes. And I think it is Zach's for the taking. Now, who's the one to fucking text me? What the fuck, mate? The Drivers' Championship is important for us and the drivers. But let's be honest, while a driver's success is certainly dependent on their talent and abilities on the track, look at fucking Perez. You give him a sword to fight and he'll probably end up poking his own eye out. But what really determines the championship is the car. And as I said before, what makes an era is the absolute jump in performance a team has to make as opposed to the rest of the grid. And McLaren, somehow, have been able to be just a bit better than everyone else right now. But it's still, as you can see, a pretty even field out there. So what they need is the resources and the momentum to build up that package and begin their reign yet again. And that can only be enabled by getting the Constructors win. Plain and simple. So as long as Perez keeps scoring less than 50% of the time, the two McLaren pit bulls will destroy the competition and get the bonus they're really looking out for. And some of you will say, but Dion, it doesn't make any sense. When Max won his first championship in 21, Mercedes actually secured the Constructors' Championship. And yet the Red Bull era started right after. Oh, shush! It doesn't fit my foolproof theory, you f***. So boo-hoo if it doesn't fit. I don't give a f***. Let's just cough it up to Max being a fucking legend, and that's that. Fucking piece of shit ruining my whole theory. God damn it. Every time.